preternatural energy is just Nora acting at normal speed in a world where we are the wax museum. And you know what this is like. Like, I'll come up to Nora at a Mass Mouth thing, and I haven't seen her for like a week or so, and I'll say, Nora, what have you been doing? And she goes, oh, yeah, well, I downloaded all of the Mass Mouth videos onto a machine-searchable VES, like, Vimeo website, and then I was able to get the Coolidge Corner Theater to commit to yet another Mass Mouth thing in the largest movie theater in Brookline, and also I got, like, 5 new organizers to come in and spread storytelling to reach tens of thousands of underprivileged urban, high school kids. And what have you been doing, Michael? Well, I put my name in the hat a couple weeks ago, but I didn't get picked. I first introduced Nora to my family on a road trip where we were heading out. My wife knew that I had started to show up at Brother Blues. I'd actually taken my 8-year-old son there now and then. So she came back from the library with some CDs from some woman who told Italian folk tales and stories about her pets, and we put them in this CD all the way up to Maine, and it's all this stuff about, the Italian folk tale of the guy who spreads a tablecloth and, food magically appears, and she translates it into her dogs who are looking hungrily up at a human spread on the table, and they say, oh, we can't eat the food, but the food can come to us, no? And at the end, I mean, the road trip passes in an instant, and my son is saying, wow, Dad, this lady's great. She's a lot better than what I see at Blues. and I say to him, sweetie, I tell stories at Blues, and he goes, oh, yeah, but Dad, don't feel bad. She's a professional. Okay, a litigation story. 2 years ago, I'm sitting in my law office, and the phone rings, and it's Nora. And Nora's going, oh my God, you gotta file a federal civil rights lawsuit for me because I tried to do a chalk drawing on the sidewalks of Coolidge Corner and the cops wouldn't let me, so let's go bust them. And my first reaction was, Nora, I do have other things I need to do. But then finally she says, oh, okay, she persuades me, and I'm thinking, okay, Nora, I love you, but I'm doing this because I love the First Amendment. And then I realized to love Nora Dooley is to love the First Amendment, right? So we dig in and we do the legal research, and it turns out that chalk drawings on sidewalks are a really big deal during the Occupy protests. And the federal courts are evenly divided between enlightened judges who say that this is obviously just free speech, and the ones who say you are defacing and vandalizing public property. Right? And of course, the thing about Nora is that although she has this mask of being a storyteller and administrator, you peel that off, and what you get is like an anarchist revolutionary. Okay?
You don't have to peel very far.
But when you peel that off, what you get is a hyperactive 12-year-old girl with an armload of chalk who will be damned if she doesn't take over Coolidge Corner sidewalks, right? So she's out there doing some huge chalk mural about, I don't know, like Nelson Mandela or peace or some shit like that, right? Okay? And I've got to file a letter on her behalf to the Brookline town solicitor explaining, actually, here are the following federal cases that find that this is free speech, and I edit out all the bad ones that say that it's not, And I'm going, do you really want to take us on right now? Like, is it really worth the town of Brookline's political embarrassment to get into federal litigation over the free speech implications of Nora Dooley's chalk drawing? And the town solicitor says, let me get back to you. And a week later, the same Department of Public Works guy who had threatened Nora with arrest like a week before says, I think we can work this out and have a permit situation where as long as it's clear that people can walk freely down the sidewalk, you can do what you want, and we'll just have an officer standing by to make sure that the sidewalk traffic is okay. So then what ends up happening is that Nora's out there on the sidewalk, and if they had just ignored her, she would have just seemed like a crazy woman who was like living out her childhood trying to do chalk drawings in the middle of the Brookline sidewalk. But instead, she's Pussy Riot, you know, and she's taking over the sidewalk, and there's this cop nervously standing there who's signaling to everybody walking past that I wish I could arrest this woman, but I'm not allowed to. And this is what happens when you put Nora Dooley up against fascist imperialism. Fascist imperialism is always gonna lose because it is not as interesting and manic as she is. And we ended up getting the Brookline tab seriously, like right above the fold, it says Sidewalk Talk, and there's a picture of Nora. And then it's an absolute full-page article. Bill of Rights, get it? Oh. And all about Nora patronizing the town of Brookline, saying, well, at first they were confused about the Constitution, but now they've done the right thing. Okay, finally, a few parables. You often notice that when an interstate highway goes downhill for a long period of time, there will be turnoffs for runaway trucks. You know? So that if a truck loses its brakes and is going completely out of control, there is an ability to turn off and head straight into a welcoming mountain of gravel, okay, which will absorb all of the energy of the runaway truck. And in the parable that I'm telling you, my friends, we are the mountain of gravel. One of the rules of the National Football League is that you're not supposed to aid the ball carrier. That if a running back hits the line of scrimmage and can't get anywhere, you can't have offensive linemen running into his back to push him forward, which strikes me as a horribly anti-socialist moral. Okay, because we're all in this together, and it always struck me that it's something that the Patriots ought to do now that they've got to have properly inflated footballs, is that they should draft a really athletic person who's only 3 feet tall, like a little person, okay, and use them as the quarterback in a direct snap formation, so that Tom Brady can pick up the little person who's holding the ball and throw them into the end zone, okay? And in this parable that I'm telling, we are the little person and Nora is Tom Brady.
That's a compliment, Nora.
Which is what I'm just saying, is that it is a mistake to talk about Nora's energy as though she's shining out there in isolation, because if that were true, Nora would explode. The only reason why Nora is engaged with the world is that the rest of us absorb it and act like the bowling pin struck by the bowling ball. And if Nora Dooley did not exist, we would be so much more boring.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson.
You know, Michael, the story about the chalk, and he really did come to my defense. It was amazing, and for free. It was absolutely lovely.
It wasn't defense, it was offense.
Offense, absolutely.
Offense.
But the first time I saw him do a show was he did a whole thing on Shakespeare at Jimmy Tingle's Theater, and so he was absolutely one of the people that inspired me to do longer storytelling and to become stronger storytelling. So Michael Anderson, what a storyteller!
Ben Cunningham.